I believe that we can do more to support the Cuban people and promote our values through engagement. After all, these 50 years have shown that isolation has not worked. It's time for a new approach.
The island nation of Cuba has literally sat frozen in time since the 50s, a product of communism and a hard-edged policy from the American government. Those who are not close to the situation might believe every person of Cuban descent is thrilled with the normalizing of relations between the two countries. That opinion could not be farther from the truth. Let's welcome to MidPoint. He is a professor of clinical management and organization at the University of Southern California. He'll be taking 40 students to Cuba next week and get a first-hand view of the new frontier. Professor Carl Voight joins us. Professor, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are.
It goes good for either side. There we go. We can go with good day and start there. What is it that you are hoping that these students are going to learn, and what specifically do you want them to take from this visit?
All right. Well, let's give some context first. The University of Southern California has been taking groups of students to Cuba since the early 2000s. Our first trip was in 2001. So this is not a one-off trip. This is a very memorable trip for this group because the change that everybody has been talking about beginning has actually begun. And so what we intend for the students to see is, first of all, to see the impact of government, the U.S. government's relations with Cuba. We also get the students, because they're business students, to see the opportunities for future trade and investment opportunities in Cuba. It also gives them an opportunity to go to an economy where the distance between their home country and that country is great, because the rules don't apply. The way we do business here is very different in Cuba. So there are many, many things, cultural, political, economic, business, that these MBAs will get to learn.
I read that you got very emotional when President Obama made his statement about the changing of relations. Why?
Well, if you've been to Cuba, the Cuban people, if anything, are incredibly friendly. They'll open their doors. You walk down a street, they love Americans. They will bring you into their homes. And so, having traveled to Cuba off and on for the last 15 years, I have developed very, very good friends in the community, and I've seen the frustration. I've seen the difficulty, and so how they get on. They live with so little. Life shouldn't be as tough. I have colleagues that I've met in the biotech industry who are world leaders, and they struggle to push their research, which is designed to improve humanity, forward. And so, this is an opportunity. It really is, and I was genuine. Because I'm, at a human level, and this is what Obama spoke about, this is the human thing to do.
Now, with about a minute left, you know very well that there's a lot of people, even in South Florida specifically, who are not thrilled with this, and they say that it is the wrong thing to do, and it is rewarding the Cuban government and the Castro family. Your take?
I can't argue with that. Yesterday, I collected a few packages from a family that was driven from the Holguin area. They lost their farms, they lost their livelihood. They were forced literally to come to the U.S., and I'm taking packages back to the part of the family that stayed. If you're a family member, if you lost a loved one, somebody was killed, somebody was driven from your land, you cannot disagree with that. That's visceral, that's emotional. But countries must deal with countries. And at the diplomatic level, we have re-engaged with Vietnam, we've engaged with China. And as Obama said, it is time that Cuba and the U.S., as nations to nations, sit down and have normal relations. That's not discounting the pain and suffering of the families that this tremendous dislocation, the revolution, had on them. But having said that, the U.S. needs to sit with the Cubans to help the Cubans come up with Cuban solutions to Cuban problems. And this issue of dealing with people that have suffered is an important one.
Professor, we're going to stay in touch. We're out of time, but I'll tell you what, when everything is all said and done, let's talk to a couple of your students here on the show one time and see what they thought about the trip as well. We'd love to do that.
We'd love to be involved. Thank you
so much for your time, Professor.
Thank you.
Professor Carl Voight from the University of Southern California, and we are standing by watching what's happening in Washington, D.C., waiting for the president to take the podium. It all continues right here on MidPoint.